Hello and welcome back to Lauren's Legends. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today is the second day of spooky season, and I have a crazy one for you today, which is the Dyatlov Pass incident. I came across this story, I think in 2017, just watching one quick video led to probably 50 of them that I could find and reading every article that I could come across. Now, this is a disclaimer. Going forward, there are a lot of gruesome details, so please be aware and know that that is coming. And sit back, enjoy, and yeah, it's gonna be crazy. The story begins in 1959 when a group of 10 hikers set out on the goal of a 14-day hike. They were all experienced hikers graduating from the Ural Polytechnical Institute. The group was made up of 8 men and 2 women. They were doing the extremely difficult hike in the dead of winter in the Ural Mountains of Russia. It was categorized as a Category 3 hike, which is the most difficult. They were doing this so when they graduated, they could be hired by expeditions to go out anywhere. The hardest places on Earth that needed a guide would hire them. They set out on the hike to reach the mountain Ortonton, which was 12 miles north of where everything happened. And I will let you know, I can barely speak English on a good day, and a lot of these words are in Russian. Please forgive me. I am doing my best. They went to the city Vishay, which is the most northern inhabited settlement. They stayed there for a little bit. They got all their provisions ready, and they were ready to set out. All 10 of them set out on January 27th, all excited. You know, this is going to be their big hurrah. It was going to be huge for them. There's plenty of pictures. I will put some up here for you of them in the city when they're on the back of the truck and when they are going out. And it is pretty wild to see them. The next morning, Yuri Yudin woke up with his joints hurting and other illnesses. He had been known to have problems with his joints in his life, but he had been getting ready for this hike for a long time. He was very excited about it, going back and forth in his head if he needed to go back. And he finally decided that he did need to go back because he felt like he would hold them back. He ends up becoming the only one who survives out of the whole group of 10. After days of hiking through the wilderness, absolutely horrid conditions, things that we can't even imagine. Negative 40-degree weather, hungry, tired. They had set up and they had made a last dinner. There was laughter. Everybody was still in high spirits, and we know because the diaries had been found afterwards. And there's nothing in the diaries that led up or give us any clues to the catastrophic event that happened that night, their last night. Now, obviously, this happened in 1959. Things were extremely different there. There wasn't satellite phones. There wasn't any kind of radio. So Igor Dyatlov had told the sports club that he would send a telegram when they got back to the city that they had just left. He had told them originally to expect them back around February 12th. Obviously, all kinds of things can happen on a hiking expedition. I'm a hiker and a camper myself. There could be a place where your team's exhausted and they need to sit and take a day longer in places. So even though he had said February 12th, he had told Yuri when he returned, they may be a few days later, not to worry. But February 12th came and went. Then the 13th, so on and so forth. When nobody came back, Yuri and the family of the hikers became extremely nervous that nobody had come back and knew something had happened. So they all got together and demanded that someone go out there and look for them and find their missing loved ones. Finally, on February 20th, the head of the institution got several volunteers, about 20 people, students and teachers together to go and search for them. The military, the police, the army, everybody else decided to get involved as well. And they were taking in helicopters and all kinds of things on the ground. And for several days, they still didn't find anything. Now, on February 26th, the searchers found the tent. Firstly, the tent was on the side of the mountain face, which the local Mansi tribe have dubbed Dead Mountain in their local language. It was called that because it was a very inhumane area to be in. Winds howled constantly against the face of the mountain. It was bare of trees. There was nothing to protect you from the cold dropping in the weather. And it was very strange that the tent was found there, firstly, because there was woods right down at the base of the mountain. Now, again, as someone who has been hiking and camping many different times, that is where you set up camp. You have protection from the elements. You have wood to go and collect so you can make your fire and you can cook your food and survive. Because again, negative 40-degree weather, that sucks if you're out there on the side of the mountain. So that was firstly strange. So after they see the tent, they go up to it and they see that it looks like it's collapsed, and they go in it and investigate it and realize that the tent was actually cut from the inside and their belongings and everything were still in the tent. It was like they had panicked and had to escape something. And instead of going through the front of the tent, which has always baffled me, they decided to cut above their heads and escape that way. And a common theory is that maybe something was on fire from their stove. Well, they looked in their belongings and their stove was actually in a bag because it had been packed after they had made dinner that night, so it was cooled down. As the searchers were taking stock of everything, they were walking around the tent and they happened to notice a chain of about 8 to 9 footprints leading away from the tent and towards the woods. But those footprints looked like they were bare feet footprints. So they followed the tracks until they disappeared, which wasn't too far from the trees. So they started going down the line of trees, and one of the searchers noticed that at the base of a large cedar tree, there was remnants of a fire. They then found the first 2 bodies. Now this is back to where I can't pronounce these words very well, so I'm going to say they were of Yuri K and Yuri D. It's the best way because I will butcher them, and out of respect for them, that's what I'm going to call them. Now, the strange thing about both of these bodies is that they only had their underwear on. Both bodies did have cuts and burns to them, and their hands they looked like they had been pulverized. It also appeared that they had been moved after death, which we will come back to that. Upon investigating the scene, the searchers realized that the oak tree behind them, the bark had been ripped off in many places violently, and there were pieces of flesh clinging to it almost 5 meters up. So someone between the 2 of them, or both of them, because both of their hands were messed up, had been trying to climb it. Why were they trying to climb it? Were they trying to see where their camp was? Were they trying to escape something? It's strange. Through the following week, they continued to search for the other 7 hikers. They knew that they had to be out there somewhere. And from going back and forth from the tree line to where the tent is, they found another 3. The first one they found was Igor Dyatlov, which was the leader of the group. And then next they found Zyaneta. And then after that, they found Rustam. The strange thing about these bodies were that they had some more clothes on them, and they were all going back up to where the tent was. But their bodies didn't have any injuries on them. Only Rustam had the injury. He had a crack in his skull, but it wasn't life-threatening, which again, how could he have gotten that? Did he fall? But Igor and Zyaneta did not have any injuries to the body. So at this point, we have 5 bodies. Every single one of them have been said that hypothermia was the cause of death. It's still terrifying because they went through something, but hypothermia. They froze to death outside. The searches continued that week. They still couldn't find the other 4. Months end up going by. And remember, there is a Mansi tribe in this area. It was reported that one of the members had been out, it's springtime now, it's March 5th, and he was walking by a ravine and saw a piece of clothing. They ended up coming back out, and they found the remaining 4 bodies. This is where the entire course of the investigation changed. When the searchers came out, they noticed that these people, some of them were under 5 meters of snow, and they were almost completely clothed, as if they had gone back to the others and taken their clothes off them. Remember how the two under the tree looked like they had been moved after death, and they had put their clothes on them. But 3 of these bodies had life-threatening injuries. One of the bodies had horrible skull damage, major life-threatening injuries, and 2 of them had major chest injuries as if they had been in a car accident, but no external damage, as if it had been in high-pressure situation that had crushed their chest. Dabina, which was found in the ravine, she had the worst injuries of all of them. Not only did she have the chest fractures, but her heart had hemorrhaged. She had a chunk of her skull missing. The rest of it was crushed. She had no eyes, and her tongue had been removed. Now, when I start thinking about the story, it just completely and totally baffles me, because you had 9 experienced hikers. I like to think of myself as semi-experienced. I know, first off, that my tent would be in the woods. Second off, why would you leave it in the middle of the frigid temperatures and run out into the abyss? Something had to have terrified them. On top of that, if you have 4 people that are out there alive long enough to be able to go back to the other bodies, remove their clothes, put them on themselves, how could they not get back to the tent? How did they go so far away that it took 2 months to find their bodies? There's just something that it doesn't add up to me. And it's crazy. It makes me lose sleep at night because I want to know what happened. So I do have the conspiracies and possible theories of what happened to them. The first and widest main theory is that an avalanche caused it. Maybe they were in the tent, heard it coming, it scared them. Things got crazy. They cut themselves out of the top of it to run out. That does not make sense to me, because first and foremost, avalanches are terrifying. They destroy everything in their path. There was no evidence whatsoever around the tent of an avalanche. There was footprints in the snow that the searchers saw. That's how they found where they were. There was only a little bit of a dusting of snow on top of the 3 bodies that were on the way back to the tent. There was no trees down. There was no kind of damage done to the woods. So in my opinion, an avalanche it couldn't be the case. Now, the second theory is the Mansi tribe. These people were known to be peaceful. They had never gone and gotten any other hikers that had gone through that area before, threatened them, taken anybody, harmed them in any way. So that theory is really out. There was no evidence that these people had been harmed, and there were no other footprints around any of the bodies to suggest that anyone else had been there. The next one is a Yeti. This is one of my favorites because I love all Yeti legends that there possibly are. But unfortunately, again, there was no footprints. So that, again, I would rule that out. The reason a lot of people talk about the Yeti is one of the last pictures on the cameras that was taken. It was a figure that looked very blurred and kind of Yeti-like, but I do believe that the camera was out of focus and that it was one of the hikers that was with them. And the next one is the military, which is the one I tend to lean towards because I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist myself. But one thing I did not mention earlier is that there was clothes that were found on the bodies that were radioactive, and the whole area ended up being radioactive. Small amounts, but there were amounts. Even when they were in the coffins, they were putting out levels of radioactivity. And that's strange to me because there was nothing in that area that causes that. So there's all these kinds of theories that there was these sounds that they could hear that made them go crazy, possibly ran out. And to me, that's the only thing that makes sense, because why would 9 awesome, crazy, cool hikers run from their place of safety out into the abyss unless they were going crazy from something that we don't know about yet? The next theory is natural causes, aka hypothermia, can make people act crazy. They make you feel hot when you're actually freezing to death, and that could explain why some people, they left with bare feet. this one does not make sense to me because, again, if it was hypothermia that was causing them to feel hot, the 4 bodies at the inn, why would they have gone back and gotten more clothes? Because they would have been in further stages of hypothermia that they would feel hotter at that time if that were to have been the case. And all 9 of them would have had to have had it at the same time. The next one, again, aliens, you have to throw them in. How can you not? What's a cool video without them? This one would be an odd one. I'm not going to go too in depth because why would the aliens scare them away, not abduct them? Or I'll just leave it at that. And the last and final theory to cause all this would have been animals. Something scared them, made them run, like it came up to the tent. Again, there were no other footprints. So at the end of the day, we have nothing to conclude any of the craziness. The government did come out and say that they believed it was an avalanche. They even put a chart out showing where their tent was on a slab of land that was softer and could have caused the shifting. I just can't fathom it being an avalanche with no damage and footprints being left. So I would love to hear your theories. I would love to get a conversation going because I would love to learn from you. Maybe I'm missing something, and I like to be proven wrong. So if you have an idea, a theory, please put it my way. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will be back with some, next thing I think I'm going to do is going to be some haunting stuff. So please let me know your thoughts and have a wonderful day.